ever seen, worse than all these terrorists. If that's true, if he actually believes that, why won't you join Antifa? Why won't you take them out? My sense is that they really don't believe that. This is just hot take rhetoric that somehow has possessed them in their Trump derangement, hanging out on social media. Zach Weismuller of Reason, I think it's Reason magazine, had the perfect question for Hayden. If you really believe Trump and Trump supporters are worse than the people you targeted with lethal drones, then what do you recommend here, right? I mean, you got to do something worse. Maybe you should carpet bomb NASCAR. Weismuller of Reason, I think it's Reason magazine, had the perfect question for Hayden. If you really believe Trump and Trump supporters are worse than the people you targeted with lethal drones, then what do you recommend here, right? I mean, you got to do something worse. Maybe you should carpet bomb NASCAR, but maybe you really won't do that, Hayden, because you're a coward. Or maybe you really don't believe it. Again, it's probably just a hot take. And to your original question, we've sat here and we've endured the media and intel agents accusing anchors of Fox and Trump of incitement. While they do this, Adam Kinzinger called all of us evil repeatedly, said Liz Cheney was fighting evil. Liz Cheney compared Republicans to Confederate soldiers. Hayden says we're worse than terrorists. You have lost the right to bring up incitement to anybody who is angry or upset about being accused of being called something. Finally, I have to admit how wrong I was about the Patriot Act and the Iraq War. All those people from Glenn Greenwald to Matt Taibbi to Dave Smith to Kat Timpf, I dismissed their ominous warnings that when what the government could do to Muslims, they could do to you. Yeah. And I never believed that, but I'm wrong, and so I'm eating crow.
Well,
and it tastes delicious.
Imagine a politician saying that.
Yeah.
In terms of the midterm elections, there's someone who learned a lesson when they ran for governor last fall in Virginia about only focusing on Trump. Take a listen.
Glenn Youngkin has been endorsed by Donald Trump 10 times. 10. He said so much of the reason why I'm running is because of Donald Trump. Trump.
We're about to kick off the fall, the midterm campaign. And I tell Democrats all the time, forget Donald Trump, just forget it.
So, Jessica, there's been a lot of focus on Donald Trump, especially with the news. What should Democrats be doing in terms of winning over voters besides calling them racist, misogynists?
Democrats have been doing a pretty good job in the last month or so. If you look at the shift in the generic congressional ballot, we're now leading in the average. It was supposed to be a complete shellacking, people predicting up to 60 seats lost. We're in the lead. Mitch McConnell was caught in a hallway this morning, asked what he thought was going to happen with the Senate, and he said, we're probably not going to win the Senate. Much more likely that we flip the House. The reason that's happening is because of Donald Trump's candidates, people like Herschel Walker, like J.D. Vance in Ohio, who's down about 5 percentage points to Tim Ryan. This is a state that beloved Republicans. It wasn't even purple anymore. It was shifting into the reddest hue of purple that there is. So I get it. James Carville is 77 years old. He talks like he's 77 years old. He is a brilliant strategist who delivered a lot of amazing things for people on left, right, and center. Everyone loved the Clinton years, besides Jennifer Flowers and Monica Lewinsky. I'm not saying that, and I've been very clear about what Bill Clinton did there. But Americans are hearing Democrats loud and clear about the policies that we're getting passed. They like what they're hearing. And this rhetoric thing, it's unfair. I just spent, since the Dobbs decision came down, I've been called a baby killer more times than I can describe. And saying that people are dangerous, for instance, I mean, Republicans, prominent Republicans call us socialists, call us communists. They say that the country will turn to Venezuela if we're in charge. What kind of friendly rhetoric is that?
It's not
the former CIA director
I'll
who's
agree
saying
with
that.
you that
It's like the governor of
But
Florida.
I want to get Dagan in on this. Look, Dagan, Terry McAuliffe was up by 10 points on Glenn Youngkin at this very same time a year ago and ended up losing. So I think it's probably too early to say that Senate Republicans are down and out.
Right. And apparently Joe Biden's not the only Democrat with short-term memory loss, because James Carville and all of these Democrats ran in Virginia.
Are down and out.
Right. And apparently Joe Biden's not the only Democrat with short-term memory loss, because James Carville and all of these Democrats ran in Virginia on racial demagoguery, period. I have some quotes I would like to share. Here's how badly it failed in Virginia. Virginians, and home state, got Glenn Youngkin as the governor, and then Winsome Sears as the lieutenant governor, the first black woman to ever hold high office in Virginia, and Jason Mieres, the first Latino attorney general, while Glenn Youngkin and all his supporters got called white supremacists. Jonathan Capehart said this about Glenn Youngkin. Youngkin won it because Republicans decided that tap dancing with white supremacy is their way back into power. Of course, we got the little gem from Joy Reid, which I will skip. And Terry McAuliffe said in his closing weekend of that campaign, Glenn Youngkin ran a racist campaign from start to finish. Democrats got shellacked. And you know who was helping out? The Crypt Keeper himself. He sent out an email. Yeah, Wisdom from the Crypt. That could be James Carville's podcast. He sent out an email, a fundraising email in late October last year. Folks, I got to tell you the truth. I hate guys like Glenn Youngkin. He's courting right-wing extremists. And it did not work. This is desperation dumpster diving by the Democrats. It's overripe. You can smell it.
Do you remember they couldn't find a racist, so Lincoln Project had to dress him up and bring him in and pretend to be racist.
Exactly.
I wonder what happened to all those activists that pretended to be Nazis.
Right.
Where are they?
They're probably actors. There's a lot of Law and Order being filmed in New York City. They probably at least got some work. But the point is to paint all conservatives as kind of dehumanize them. Again, because you just this insidious, amorphous blob of people. Bigots are upset. Can't be upset about crime. Bigots can't be upset about putting food on the table. Bigots can't be upset about the family member who died from fentanyl that came across the border.
Well, what's the original word? The original word was evil. And I will agree with Jessica that being called a socialist and a communist is on par with being called evil.
All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.
A political earthquake in Wyoming that could have major implications for the midterms and beyond. Liz Cheney getting clobbered by Trump-backed candidate Harriet Hageman in the state's GOP primary by almost a 40-point landslide. But Cheney trying to spin the loss into a win with her eyes on national office.
That's a decision that I'm going to make in the coming months, Savannah. I'm not going to make any announcements here this morning, but it is something that I'm thinking about, and I'll make a decision in the coming months.
Former President Trump gloating over the loss of one of his most vocal political foes, calling Cheney a fool who should be ashamed of herself. But Cheney is throwing punches right back and promises to keep fighting.
I believe that Donald Trump continues to pose a very grave threat and risk to our republic. I am absolutely going to continue this battle. I think it's the most important thing I've ever been involved in, and I think it's certainly the most important challenge that our nation has faced in recent history, and maybe since the Civil War, and it's one that we must win.
Democrats and the media getting called out for mourning the loss of a Cheney, who was once a major villain to the left.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say this is potentially as dangerous a moment for this country as we've seen at any time since the middle of the 19th century in the run-up to the Civil War.
It's about 39% of the electorate that want to replace the U.S. government, that want to throw